I'm Charlotte and this is Time Mama Tries to Read. I'm going to do a little reading vlog video for you that's going to go backwards. So I'm going to talk about what I'm going to read in January. I've got a couple of really interesting buddy reads, and then I'm going to go back to December and talk about the books I read then, just so that we've got a kind of clear slate then for the rest of the year. So the first buddy read I'm going to do is, I hope these books aren't in the shot, there's stuff tumbling down everywhere. The first buddy read is Tom Hanks's Uncommon Type, which is a book I bought a couple of months ago, and I'm going to buddy read this with Jo Smith. So she is a booktuber, but she doesn't do videos, but she's a regular commenter on all the big channels, and we all know and love her, so I'm very excited. And she got to go and meet Tom Hanks, I think it was about a month ago, and have her book signed at a really awesome literary event, and that kind of prompted us to sort of say, well, shall we read it together, because she knew I already had it. And I kind of needed that prompt because it's short stories, plus it's a kind of novelty thing. It's been in the charts, and when things are in the charts, it always makes me doubt whether they're actually going to be any good because I'm snobbish like that. So we're going to try and read it over January. It's got about, I think, about 16 stories, so maybe 17. So we'll have to do a couple of 3 stories a week. No, that's not right. Maybe 5, I can't even work it out. Maybe 4 or 5. I did work it out, but I have forgotten. So yeah, we're going to do that. The other buddy read, just look at that. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. This is the Penguin edition, which is translated by Anthony Briggs, but I think the edition I've seen a lot on BookTube looks quite different to this. It's a really pretty cover. I'm going to stick with this one because I've got it and it seems a bit crazy to buy it again. But I'm buddy reading it with Siân, and I know she's got the beautiful edition. And we've managed to rope in Jo Smith for this for this buddy read as well. And we have sort of nabbed Doris for it as well, because I think you probably all know Doris from Aldi Books has been reading War and Peace. I'm not sure for how long she's been reading it, but I think she's read volume 1 and then she's kind of come to a stop. So she's joined in with our buddy read, but she's going to sort of sit quietly and wait for us to catch up and then see if we can sort of spur her on to do the last bit. Yeah, I didn't realise how many chapters are in it, and we worked out we had to basically read a chapter a day. So we'll have to do 7 chapters a week. They're not long chapters, but as with anything Russian and classic, they're not going to be, I don't think they're going to be easy to read, but I might be wrong. And we're reading it over the course of a year. So it's not an officially something we've decided to do as a read along. But if any of you guys have got a copy at home and you've been meaning to get along with it, this would be the time, because we're going to try and be really strict with each other. Or at least I've decided this. No one else has said this, but I've said that I will try and urge the others on if they look like they're about to fall by the wayside, and that I want them to do the same to me. So if you're commenting underneath that you can't do it, maybe I can try and urge you on as well. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. I am scared. We obviously want to do it, otherwise I wouldn't have said, but yeah. So the other book I've got to talk about is one that I've read, and it's one that you probably recognise because it was almost my book of the year. This is Tirzah and the Prince of Crows by Deborah K. Davies. So I'm not going to talk too much about it because I did speak about it a little bit in my other video. But it's about a young girl called Tirzah who's 16 going on 17. It's about her experiences as she tries to navigate through life, living in a family that are quite devout chapel goers, borderline fundamentalists. The chapel sort of splits halfway through the novel, where the very strict and quite horrible chapel goers go one way, and then Tirzah and her family and lots of other families go the other way. It's really interesting in light of Kate Howe talking about the fact that she doesn't enjoy the fact that lots of literary books can have quite negative stereotypes about Christianity. And she's right, it's something I've never particularly picked up on. I'm more likely to pick up on a negative stereotype of Islam than I am to pick up on the Christianity thing. And maybe that's in part because I'm British, and in Britain we have quite a sort of, I think, a relaxed attitude to the church and religion. You know, we are officially a Christian country, but it's totally okay and almost expected to almost be quite scathing of religion. You know, comedians on stage get away with it. Politicians don't say anything about God in their speeches, otherwise they'd be massively criticised. Whereas I think in America it's much more typical to be on a supporting religion kind of angle. So anyway, I'm pleased to report that although with the idea of those fundamentalist chapel goers, that's not great. The families in this go a different way to what you expect. They don't stick to the sort of norms that you'd expect. They make decisions on their own. It doesn't kind of drag you down this negative I've got to escape chapel kind of route. It's all about discovering what spirituality is. And for Tirzah, nature is part of spirituality, and that's, I think, why she can't bond with the religion that she's part of, although later on she finds sort of a way to compromise both. So generally speaking, I just love this. It's a really awesome book about childhood. It's an awesome book about adolescence and growing up. The nature descriptions are they're just amazing, and that's what I loved about it. I buddy read this with Mercedes of Mercy's Bookish Musings, not Mrs. Mercy Reads, as I've repeatedly called her channel. Thank God she's forgiving. I don't know why, I've just got it stuck in my head that that's the name of her channel. It's not the name of her channel, and I'm really sorry. Mercedes didn't enjoy it as much as me, but she did really enjoy it, but it wasn't like a top book for her. She had similar problems to me, actually, with some of the romance tropes that were going on, the idea of a girl falling in love with a guy who's actually quite horrible to her. I had the same misgivings, but they just didn't seem to affect me as much. I think we were both pretty much on the same page about the book. There was just something about it that spoke to me, and we kind of feel that maybe part of it, not all of it, part of it might have been I read the book in quite a sort of, I think about maybe 2 chunks, and so I immersed myself in it a little bit more, maybe, but it could just be that it just wasn't quite up her street, although she did really enjoy it. So it was really fun to buddy read. It's always good to sort of compare notes on how you feel about a book. Another book that I'm almost finished is First We Make the Beast Beautiful by Sarah Wilson. This was a Christmas gift to me from my lovely friend Fran, and it was on my wish list, which I don't know how it was like some sort of psychic meld with the wish list, because it was the sort of book I wouldn't have expected anyone to get for me. It's a book about anxiety, and sometimes I think people are a bit scared to do that in case they somehow trigger you by talking about what's wrong. I'm really loving it, and to the point where I can't wait to get to the end so that I can start again. And I really mean that. I'm going to start from the beginning tonight. I'm hopefully going to finish this tonight and start again. I'm not going to read it as intently the second time, but I'm going to make lots of notes, because I should have really made notes as I started, and I didn't. I wasn't sure how to place it at first. The kind of review I will give for it so far is that it's incredible, it's insightful. It is very specifically her form of anxiety, which is very high functioning. It's almost she talks a lot about bipolar, and it's the kind of bipolar end of anxiety, and she links the two, which I'd never really linked before. I've always seen them as quite distinctive. So it didn't really tally with me in some ways, because I don't have manic episodes that are any more than maybe I frantically clean the house for a few days. I certainly don't work on a kind of manic treadmill all the time. I don't like to organise every little detail. My anxiety stops me from wanting to organise anything. I don't even want to open my own bank statements. I will hesitantly arrange something with friends, and then I will completely back away from actually finalising the agreement, and then it'll all be last minute and horrible, and I'll feel like I've let everyone down. So it was very, very different to how I experience it, but a lot of the tips she uses in how to manage hers I found quite relevant to me, and I think will be really useful, so I can't wait to go back through. The other thing that is a slight problem, and I don't like listing problems with books that I find. And basically, this is a 4 or 5 star read for me, so why am I saying all the problems? But just to sort of give you a heads up, is that she's speaking from a perspective of someone who is quite privileged. Now, she talks a lot of the time about how she's basically been out of work. She's obviously suffered a lot in her life. But if I was out of work for a year and a half, I couldn't just take off to a shed in the middle of nowhere the way she does and live off the land. I've got a child to support. I've got a family immediately around me that I need to look after, and I just wouldn't have the money. I rent, so no way that I could just suddenly up sticks and suddenly start renting somewhere else when I didn't have any money. There's no one in my family that has a shack. I'm not 100% sure where she got the shack from. And also similarly, she's astonishingly beautiful. If you look up Sarah Wilson, she is just amazingly gorgeous, and I find that a lot of the things that happen to her whether she wants to admit it or not, possibly happened to her because she was so beautiful. So, for example, she's mugged and she's left completely stranded for 2 weeks in a foreign country, I think somewhere in Europe. And there's a problem actually processing everything because this was like pre-internet and stuff like that. So she wanders the streets and like fruit sellers will give her free mango and bits of bread, and that's how she kind of survives. And she talks about how it was an incredible experience because she didn't have any technology, she didn't have her she couldn't get in touch with anybody, she was completely alone, she was living in poverty. I don't think if I was wandering the streets of Europe that people would be offering me free bread and fruit. I just can't see it happening. So there's an element where you think, right, okay, I can only imagine that this stuff happens because you are the sort of person people gravitate towards, possibly through energy. She's also got a lot of energy, and through her physical appearance. So there's a few things where I was like, I don't think that's universal. I think that needed to be acknowledged. But for the most part, I'm talking like 90% of it, it is just really beautifully done. And she does look on her own sort of sense of self and judge herself, which is, you know, I think good. And the last book, really quickly, is Pages & Co. by Anna James. It's a 9 to 12 book is how we would categorise it when I worked in a bookshop. It's a kind of upper primary school read, or middle grade, I think in America you call it. And it's I won't say too much, you kind of know the plot probably. It's about a little girl called Tilly who finds that she can disappear into books and bring characters out of books, and it's really beautiful. It's a really nice plot. It's kind of, it's not a desperately plotty book, so you're not desperately trying to get to the next page. It's just really, really nice. And if when I was sort of 9 to 12 years old, I would have loved to have read it. So I would say for what it is, it's really awesome. It's obviously not like full of philosophy, but I tell you what it is full of actually. It's full of a love of bookshops and libraries, which is really amazing. And I believe Anna James worked for the Bookseller magazine, which is what we have at least in the UK, that goes around all bookshops, etc., and it advertises new books and it has interesting articles about bookselling and authors and whatnot. So she's obviously somebody with a passion for the reality of a bookshop and not the internet. So it was quite timely to read this when I'm trying really hard not to buy any books off the internet. Okay, I'm done. That was my 2 reads and have reads, and when I get back to you, I'll give you some updates on the buddy reads and then whatever I pick up after I finish this lovely thing. See you soon. Bye.